The 5 EQs. The 5 EQs are intellectual creatures, very light, very fairy-like, very kind of mermaid-like, I find, when it's a woman. The 5 EQs are interested in friendship first, and most importantly, want to connect. Connection is so important to a 5 EQ. Now, the maturity mark for a 5 EQ is whether or not you've taken enough time to connect to yourself, whether or not you've interviewed yourself, that you know your heart, and that you don't live just in the mind. The 5 EQs tend to want to live only in the mind, and they tend to want to do love business intellectually. And when the emotions start flowing, any of the twos come down the pipeline, usually the 5 EQs have an issue with that. So you have to settle your own mind, find your own meditation, tame your own mind before you enter into the business of love when you're a 5 EQ. 5 EQs tend to chase after anything different or interesting. Interesting is the key word for a 5 EQ. They want something that keeps their mind going and the conversation going. As soon as the conversation dries up, so does the love. So a 5 EQ tends to chase after, I find a lot after the 3 VQs, after 3 MQs, which are male quotients. We'll talk about that. But they tend to chase after anything that will intrigue their mind and be interesting to talk about. The 5 EQ's focus is on connection. It's on exchanging ideas, and a 5 EQ really wants to feel like they're understood. This is why it's imperative that you understand yourself before you go into a love situation. They really want to feel like they're understood. They really want to feel like they are heard. 5 EQ's focus is on communication and is on sharing ideas, and talking about the future a lot is pretty popular with the 5 EQs. The emotional personality of a 5 EQ is usually very light and playful and fun. 5 EQs tend to be very willing to go with the flow of things and very willing to go in any direction. 5 EQs will go up to 5 different things at once, and will usually have 5 options in their own minds when they're connecting to something. So I find that the 5 EQs are very light and sweet and playful personalities. When it comes to defensiveness, the 5 EQs are not good at defending themselves. They tend to be maybe defensive in their own minds, so very defensive in their own minds, and maybe 5 different directions they can go. When it comes to the people that they love, the 5 EQs are I would say very defensive. They're always looking out for the people that they love. They're always maybe a little worrisome. In fact, I don't know if they actually go to the point of defending, but their minds, the 5 EQs, are definitely always looking out and thinking, very mindful of other people. And that can lead to worry in the defensive column. The likeliness to commit to a 5 EQ is highly likely. If they feel that they can connect to the person, that they have a buddy, then they are ready to go the whole 9 yards. Since they only connect to people that are interesting and really open up forever to people who are interesting, they tend to be committed very much so. When it comes to commitment with the 5 EQs, you definitely want to start with friendship first and then move into romance and sexual connection second. In bed, actually, the 5 EQs tend to be a little conservative. They tend to have certain rules going in and certain expectations going in, and once within those rules and expectations, it's all good. So 5 EQ is very passionate and very willing, but they just want to have all of the contracts signed ahead of time and understand what they're getting into ahead of time. Once they do, they're all in. In fact, they'll bring in 4 friends, right, so to speak, if that's what you're into. So the 5 EQs are very much, I think, very flexible in bed, very willing to try anything once those certain rules and expectations and decisions are met ahead of time. A 5 EQ always adds an interesting component to an equation. Adding 5 to a 1 makes 6. So when the 5 EQs are added to a 1 VQ, they're very, very loving and go along. When a 5 EQ is added to a 2, it becomes very spiritual. When a 5 EQ is added to a 3, it becomes very controlling. So 5s really add an interesting dynamic, a wild card to any love situation. I find the 5 EQs end up loving all types of people. They tend to be very exotic in their personal tastes, and the 5 EQs often will actually have a foreign lover or a lover that speaks a second language or English or has a foreign language. So a 5 EQ is very willing to go the extra 9 yards, or I guess 4 yards for the person, and connect to them. And they always add a wonderful dynamic to the other person's life. The 5 EQs tend to speak for their partners a lot, and they allow their partners to speak for them, which is an interesting kind of superpower. Another superpower of the 5 EQs is that they're telepathic, that they tend to pick up on your thoughts, and that can be a negative as well for the 5 EQs, because sometimes they're putting a little bit too much credit on thoughts, or too much credit on words, or too much credit on communication, when really, again, the mind only brings one part of the equation to the whole situation. So the 5 EQs are good that way. Now, if you have the number 5 in the master column of your VQ algorithm, then that means that you are basically stuck in the mind at times. And that means that you have a tendency to get lost in your mind. You have a tendency to allow your mind to get in the way of intimacy. And so if you have VQ and then the number is 5, the master number is 5, you must master your mind. If you don't have a practice like meditation or yoga or dancing or something that makes the mind chill out, the 5s in the master number are going to have a real hard time. They tend to be overly anxious, bring too much energy to the relationship, and they burn people out. So you really have to master your own mind if you have 5 in the master number, all right? And that's with the 5s. Now, if you have 5 in the quotient proficiency spot, which means you'd be a 15 or you would be part of a 25, then ultimately this is where you must be mindful in the very end of the relationship, or the expression of the relationship. Be very mindful in it, okay? So by being mindful in it, we mean that you must think for your own thoughts while you're in the situation. You must monitor your own thoughts in the situation. That's what mindful is. So in the 15 situation, you love and trust, and you're very mindful of what your thoughts are. That's necessary because you're a person whose mind can get in the way of the situation. Now, if you have the 5 in the proficiency spot of a 25 quotient, then this is where you're a very passionate person to begin with, and your thoughts actually need to hold you back. That your mind must be kind of constructive as to what you will allow to happen and what you will not allow to happen. At the same sense, people who don't find love in 25 quotient, those people tend to not find love because they're not opening up to the passion. Their mind's actually in the way. Then when they do find the passion, they have to keep their mind out of the way. So no matter where the 5 is, if you're a 5 VQ, or you're a something VQ5, or something VQ something 5, right? It's all about your mind and being mindful of yourself. Now, if you're in GA Venus and you have a 5 EQ, my whole program for you is to become mindful of your thoughts. So I help you with playbooks that allow you to start to become mindful of your thoughts. We do little journaling exercises. This is definitely one of the more fun groups, the 5 EQs that I text with a lot, I gotta say. Out of all the people who bother responding to me on GA Venus, the 5 EQs are so responsive. They love the chat. So if you're in GA Venus and you're 5 EQ, we're going to work on being mindful of your own thoughts, and then being mindful of your thoughts and creating that extra space while you're in the relationship, because that's part of it too. You know, taking a moment before you answer, observing your own thoughts before you answer. This is all part of the 5 EQ secret to love success that we talk about in GA Venus. All right, thanks for clicking.
So